Episode 784. The clerics hadn't even used their heals on the MT yet, but they were already burning them on us DPS. So, when the healing list was broken down by segment, one DPS player after another climbed onto the rankings. The MT named Invincible Handsome had indeed vanished without a trace, leaving everyone utterly ashamed.
Astonished, this is insane. It's a game.
The players in the raid who had room to mutter were trying their best, but they just couldn't find the right words to describe this whole thing. The clerics took one look at the segmented healing stats and were left speechless. Because Handsome Wuji had been too outstanding, their workload had plummeted. After all, healer output was mostly meant to serve the MT. The DPS only took light scratches and minor wounds, just toss a skill their way when the time was right. Yet now they were only doing this kind of work. The healer's stats on the healing list were so low it was almost unbelievable. If anyone else saw this, they'd definitely think the whole team's clerics were just coasting. But the truth of the matter was, they didn't want to slack off. They just never got the chance not to. This dungeon run is getting awkward.
Stay sharp.
Shi Jiryang, however, feared everyone might slack off under these circumstances, and quickly reminded the clerics. Finally, the boss landed a hit on Wudi Zui Junlang, the MT. Everyone wept tears of joy at the sight. The clerics swarmed forward, ready to heal Wudi Zui Junlang. A boss fight where the MT doesn't get healed, they really couldn't adapt to that. And even Invincible's legendary focus seemed to be cracking at last. After that, the attacks kept coming. But thanks to Invincible's Most Handsome's relentless dodging, he managed to keep the pressure off the DPS. In short, even against a boss, Invincible Most Handsome's skill could still compensate for his lackluster gear. But bossing wasn't like fighting the stone statue. There was no turning point where the mobs grouped up to give him a breather. The boss required him to tank it solo from start to finish, maintaining that relentless rhythm through the entire fight. Could he really pull it off? Everyone was wondering the same thing. And finally, as the first boss fell, the answer was revealed. Invincible Best Looking really pulled it off. Using pure skill and evasion to minimize damage, he finished that awkwardly named boss fight. The final stat sheets didn't reveal much on the surface, but everyone who took part in that fight knew the truth. For someone with Handsome Wudi's gear to put up numbers that looked just like his usual performance, that in itself was anything but ordinary. And throughout the entire lengthy bossing process, Invincible Most Handsome managed to maintain that level of precision. It suggested he still had plenty in reserve, that this wasn't even his limit. The players of Joy Sheep Team clustered in small groups, whispering among themselves, every single one of them murmuring about this Wudi Zui Junlang. They'd even forgotten to check what gear the first boss had dropped. As for Invincible Most Handsome himself, he remained perfectly calm. After taking down the boss, he casually smashed a nearby mechanism, then turned to the group and asked, "Continue?"
Continue.
Guild leader Joy Sheep acknowledged the order. He silently picked up the first boss's drop, then quietly shared it in the raid channel for everyone to see. Yet everyone seemed distracted. At least 3 people stared at the item for a long time, but no one said a word. From that point on, no one on the path to the second boss dared question Invincible's strength again. Now everyone was thinking the same thing. If gear like this could make him the MT in the Sky Tomb, what kind of scene would it be if he had even better equipment? Would that be enough to clear the entire aerial tomb? This was the core of the tank's position in the team. His personal growth alone could elevate the entire group's capability by a full tier. So in any team, the tank is always the first priority to gear up. Getting the tank strong fast, that's the most efficient way to boost the whole team's power. But now Shi Jiryang's team didn't need to build one from scratch. A powerful tank had practically dropped right into their laps. The only thing holding this tank back was his gear. Once his gear got an upgrade, it was almost impossible to imagine just how far this tank could elevate the entire team. The subsequent steamroll only reinforced that notion for everyone. Although Shi Ji Yang was still calling the shots, Wu Di Zui Junlang's performance kept forcing them to adjust their tactics. In the beginning, this adjustment had everyone on edge, like the first time they faced all 4 stone statues charging at once. But once they got used to it, the fight became simple and efficient. The second and third boss fights followed the same pattern as the first. Wu Di Zui Junlang kept bridging the gear gap with skill, pulling off another solo feat. After clearing the 3 bosses, the team checked the time and finally realized that what Wu Di Zui Junlang had said when he first joined, "I make things more efficient," was nothing but the honest truth. By this point, the time it took to clear the 3 bosses was genuinely much shorter than their usual runs. Then, after cutting down a wave of mobs, they finally reached the 4th trap mechanism.
So, anyone lending me some gear?
After clearing the mobs, Invincible Most Handsome asked if anyone had lent him gear. The group paused, then remembered. He'd mentioned earlier that if he still had to tank the bosses, he'd need the equipment to back it up.
Did he mention the 4th one?
I think it was mentioned. I remember. There was the 4th one, and the final boss too.
Not just that. There's more. I think there's a 5th one. I remember there being 2 in a row.
The players muttered among themselves, clearly holding Handsome in contempt back then. No one had taken his words seriously at all. By now, they'd long since forgotten them.
I'll lend you my gear.
At that moment, Seven Leaf Flower stepped forward without hesitation. All the gear on him was his personal property, not borrowed from the guild warehouse using contribution points, so it could be traded. For a main tank like that, every major guild would go out of their way to win him over.